about all-girl mosh pits is that no one fucking gropes you.
I'm Morgan. This is Michelle. We run a 501c3 nonprofit called Not Just a Boys Club, and our mission is to showcase women identifying and non-binary folks in punk and hardcore music, and also in the arts. So we have like zines and we have a bunch of vendors here. This is the 3rd annual Not Just a Boys Club Fest, and it's like a 10, 12-hour day, about 15, 16 bands every year. It's always based in New Jersey, but Michelle founded it. This is the 3rd year.
I think like most artists, I always have multiple series going on at the same time. And the project that I've been working on for over a year now that I'm really excited about is a project that I'm calling Enough. So this body of work is about looking at the female body as a vessel for reproduction, with the uterus represented here, but then at the same time dealing with the fact that our bodies are so sexual, and this kind of, do you want us to be a mother? Do you want us to be a slut? And all of these societal pressures and, sort of that complex relationship between sex, objectification, and reproduction. And so some of the, I chose to do embroidery on these as opposed to doing another print to show like sewing and embroidery being a traditional handicraft that women have done. I also use a lot of botanical images that are, evocative of genitalia. And then a more scientific approach with the way that the uterus is represented.
I feel like there's a pretty big divide as far as like what's going on in communities, and a lot of people pushing for something like this to happen, and a lot better representation of who's actually involved in a scene. So we have people working on stuff here, like photographers that come in, people that do zines, artists, jewelers. We just started our own tape label out of this. So just trying to showcase everyone that's involved in the community that isn't a cis dude.
And this is really pitting these two forces against each other, like the clinical uterus with the seductive open legs and embroidery. So that was taken from a real piece of lingerie, and I inked it up and printed it as a monotype. And it just kind of gives you a certain lens to look at the whole piece. It's not granny panties, it's, very clearly lacy underwear. And so that kind of gives you a certain entryway into the piece, as well as the clamshell vulva. Women's pleasure has always been a controversial subject. I'm examining just complexities of modern womanhood and all of the different things that we experience as women and that we have to deal with on a daily basis, and exploring reproduction and sexuality and consumerism and just all different aspects of it. I think music might be the thing that brings people in, but culture is what makes people stay around, and the community around it as well. So when I was in high school, I had a crush on this guy, and we were, he was starting to introduce me to like more punk, and I was kind of like confused by the hardness of it because I never really considered myself like a really hard or aggressive person. That's just not part of, it's not my preference in terms of music or what I, how I present myself. But what I learned more about what punk is sort of just being who you are regardless of what people tell you to do, or like not playing by the rules in like the most authentic way. And that's something that I've always done. And, he told me that I was the punkest person that he knew because I didn't really care what other people thought of me, and I just knew what I wanted to do or how I wanted to dress or what kind of art I wanted to make. And, public opinion wasn't something that ranked very high on my list.
I mean, I think everybody that's involved in this community in whatever capacity is here for pretty similar reasons. I mean, the music first and foremost, but I think we all don't really fit the status quo of the general population, and then to have that community kind of dominated historically by cis men kind of runs counter to the whole ethos of the community, so we're trying to push back against that.
Mostly that comes through in my work about sexuality and how women are objectified as sex objects, and often their bodies and their physical beings being seen as more valuable and more important than how intelligent or how talented or how capable a woman can be.
So I think you don't exactly have to look the part to be a part of it. And I think that's also what we try and strive for. Like, a lot of the times it is kind of like a who knows who, like cool kids club, especially in New York and New Jersey. I feel like very much in New York, and I'm glad to see a lot of people come here that I don't normally see at shows, and I definitely don't normally see like moving in the pit. I'm glad we can foster an environment that people feel comfortable doing that in here. It really is not like that at other shows around here for sure. A lot of those people won't come because they don't feel comfortable, they don't feel like they belong, and they super belong. If you care about it at all, you belong here.
Because there's so many different messages that we receive daily as women telling us that we're, back to like the title of my art project, enough, like we're not enough, or we're too much, or there's like a certain standard of how you're supposed to be in the job place. Like, for example, people don't call men vain for wanting to dress up or present themselves professionally at work. But women are, whenever you try to put extra effort into your appearance, you're considered vain. you know, for a man who is maybe more aggressive, you know, he just has strong leadership skills, whereas a woman who acts, you know, has the same behavior is bossy or a nag. And these are just things that slowly become ingrained in your head about how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to be. And what's so great about punk is that you can flip that on its head, and you don't have to act a certain way. You don't have to fit into a certain cookie cutter mold. You can just, you know, be who you want to be. And I think that punk is really freeing for a lot of women, because those sort of expectations are lessened in that community.
After playing in a band for 5 years and being like the token band with a woman in it, I was kind of sick of being the only band on a bill like us. And that was even when we were more of like a pop punk band. I really liked Lifetime and Kid Dynamite. And now it's super clear that there's a lot more like need for this, whereas I feel like there's a pretty big divide as far as like what's going on in communities, and a lot of people pushing for something like this to happen, and a lot better representation of who's actually involved in a scene.
I'm not the only one. There is more of my kind. I am a renegade, fighting to survive. I'm not the only one. There is more of my kind. Straight from the path, leave the mess behind.
Maybe I don't have the same experience as you, and I'm not going to say that I do, and I'm not going to push that by any means, but I can have solidarity with you. I can understand where you're coming from, because like I also feel marginalized in this way and that way, and like maybe it's not the same as you, but we all feel it. So like I think like banding together in that sense, and like understanding that like we are actually like seriously all in this in a similar way, whether or not we feel the repercussions in the same way. It's kind of like, you know, maybe sometimes you have to bear the weight for another marginalized group that you're not a part of.
What good guy means is, it means a feminine male. It means someone who's a man but is exhibiting, you know, more like feminine characteristics, like being sensitive, being caring, looking out for other people, like maybe not being as aggro or as macho or destructive as like, you know, punk men are maybe perceived or expected to be. And that is toxic masculinity, and that is a feminist problem, in that whenever characteristics that are stereotypically assigned to women are being perceived in people of, you know, any gender, that they are seen as less than or less powerful or you know, weaker, and that's a huge problem.
I don't know, I think like bridging divisions and dismantling that is like a huge fucking thing.
Division will cause us to crumble.
I think that division is fucking toxic. I think that like that's what we're supposed to feel, right? We're supposed to be like, well, I'm better than this person.
We don't really have anything except for each other and the people that we're close to, and we need to take care of those people, because like shit is extremely fucked up right now.
This is like one of the first photos that I ever took when I was learning black and white photography, and it was just a really fun photo that I took at a punk show at the Go-Go, and of the skateboard swing, which is this crazy skateboard tied to a rope in a barn that you can jump off the loft in the barn to swing on. And then I just started writing about this story of going to this show at the Go-Go in 2009, and, you know, learning how to use a camera and seeing this wonderful creature on the skateboard swing, and just kind of like a little memory of that time, and how it inspired me to be the new Tony Hawk of the skateboard swing, and sort of my journey of seeing this thing, having admiration for it, and then going for it. So, I mean, is it like, you know, a professional or like seamless like little thing? No, but it's also like, that's what zines are for. They kind of like are a collective history and things that you want to share and share with the world without having it be so perfect and polished. I would say that punk is for everyone, and rather than like the barrier to entry with punk, whether it's making zines or show posters or making art, making music, or sewing your own clothes, or, you know, like the whole fashion component of it, the barrier to entry is that you can try to do it and you might suck at it, but you should still do it. And it's the creation and the process of just diving into something that you're not 100% confident about, and just going for it anyways. That is the beauty and like the purpose of punk. You know, it's not about playing a guitar perfectly. It's not about having the perfect voice. Like, if that were the case, then you would be in a different genre. You would be in a different community. But it's about saying, you know what? I might not have 10 years to like master this thing, but I have so much gumption and so much like need to do this thing that I'm just gonna go ahead and do it anyways. And I think you can see sort of how different people in the community have progressed. And I would say of myself, how I identify with that is, you know, having this freedom of experimentation and this freedom from failure. And when you don't have this, like, this failure concept looming over you, you're more free to experiment, to try new things, to do things that don't work, that do fail, because, you know, in the end, someone's still going to appreciate it. Or it's about the process of trying, and it's about the energy of the performance more than it is about what was actually performed or what you actually created. And being able to hone that and work on that over years, yeah, sure, maybe you can, you know, like, maybe you can really focus it in and figure and like use the experimentation phase as like, you know, a means to an end. But just having that kind of culture of do it, try it, yes, is just really great, as opposed to having to fit into a box.